Happy Tuesday, Q&R Code. This is Quinn, joined by our co-host twin Riley, the Smiley, the best of the West, my favorite in the world.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for being here, everybody. Just as we were taking a deep breath and getting settled, ready to hit record and ready to record the podcast, Riley, I couldn't help but notice did a breath like that. And you know what that's giving? Horse. And you know what that makes me feel? Year of the Fire Horse. And that's a cooling breath, which makes so much sense. I'm feeling empowered by my research of the Year of the Fire Horse today, and that is a breathing technique that I'm going to continue to implement through this year as just a cooling breath when I need to balance my fire.
That's such a good breath, and horses really went off with that one.
Yeah.
That does release tension. Just jumping right into Year of the Fire Horse, I wanted to find out, since I've heard the terms used very interchangeably, Chinese New Year, I've also heard it called Lunar New Year. What's that about? Started to investigate, found out that this is a hotly debated topic and is not cut and dry if it's Chinese New Year. The reason it's more complicated than that is because China is obviously a massive area and not everyone in China celebrates, but also cultures outside of China do celebrate. Like there's Vietnamese, Korean, there's lots of different people that do celebrate it, but calling it Lunar New Year doesn't sit right with some people because within those cultures, there are some cultures that have a separate Lunar New Year and a separate Solar New Year, and some practice it at the same time, some it's a different time. So, long story short, Quinn and I are clearly not from any of those cultures, and we were not raised in Asia. However, we've always liked Chinese New Year. I feel like something that really draws me to it is there is this centered around animals approach and using animals as symbology, which is something that makes a lot of sense. Embracing nature in all of its forms and like actually focusing around that in cultural moments. But also, it's a good reminder, and always was for me growing up, when I was like, oh, Chinese New Year, so the new year isn't just a given. It's not just the way of the world that it is the start of the new year, January 1st. Like, that is a cultural practice, and that is something that is not just inherent to life. And that was a cool, like, mind-expanding thing for me, I think.
I have been learning some different things related to time and just ideologies and practices amongst different cultures. This indigenous to Turtle Island creator that I found, that I've been watching a bunch of their videos. They're super smart, compelling, interesting, and I think just have a different perspective formed from a different culture. It's Chiara Sunshine. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Here's in her bio: Indigenous resistance artist, educator, language keeper, Karankawa Hawk Clan. She brought up the concept of time and how time is a lot of like colonialist settlers think of it as linear, and that they think of it as like circular, and that past, present, and future is all like happening at the same time. And that concept being discussed made me be like, wow, the way that my mind could expand, because I can't even fathom that. Like, I am so set in my way of understanding time I have been taught to understand it, and it's such a daily practice of like in our country of how we talk about time, that concept, I was like, I don't even know where to begin with considering a notion so different.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if this is necessarily like the nuance of they mean by that, but I guess it does make sense to me when you think about the fact that they all just inform each other. You can't separate the past from the present because it's like cumulative, and what's going on right now is building onto the future, and so in a sense they're all happening concurrently, but like you said,
because they couldn't exist without each other.
They're like not separable, but I just love hearing different perspectives, and the more I learn about different like modalities of spirituality and cultures and food culture and language, everything, it just, I feel like makes the world make so much more sense than being stuck in like the box of what I was taught or what my community believed growing up. And like there's value to be found there, but learning from a variety of perspectives has always led to so much benefit to me, like we talked about last episode as well.
Okay, different, complete side note, but I can't get this off my mind, and I'm not going to be able to think straight the rest of the episode if I cannot share this. I and Sean, I might have already said on the podcast that we've been listening to some beatboxing, and Riley, are you familiar with the beatboxer Wing?
Yes.
Why are you laughing? Is that like a duh? Everyone knows Wing?
No, I'm laughing because I just am curious to see where you're going with this, because it does feel very separate to what we were talking about.
It does, but it's not. I'm not leading us down any path other than it has been on my mind, and can't I play? I'm gonna play a little bit of it and show you guys. Insane. Anyway, I love this guy.
Energy right there.
Right. See, that must be where I was going with this. Last night, Sean and I watched it again, this song of his, Dopamine, for the manyth time. And Sean was like, "Can you imagine, like, picture him tying a cherry stem with his tongue?" And I was like, why are you trying to turn me on? I don't say that. We're getting ready for bed. I'm trying to calm down. I love the concept of beatboxing with the like hands around your mouth, because I just never see any like legitimate beatboxers these days. Like they're definitely trying to amplify the sound. It's not a like covering and lift the hand for, you know, a different effect. They're just with their mouths doing crazy. You know who first ever really got me thinking of beatboxing and like as stoked on it as I feel now is, I think her name is Nicole Paris, who was like the father-daughter duo that did the beatbox off, where she goes, "For God I live, for God I die," and just lays down a crazy beat. And anyway, just had to get that off my chest, because humans can do some amazing things, and we might as well celebrate the good.
Yeah. Well, good on you for saying you think her name is Nicole Paris, because as soon as you said who first got you into it, I can picture that video, but I would have never been able to conjure a
Do you
name
think that that's
associated.
just off the top of my head from 10 years ago? No, I have looked into it. So thanks, but
Credit where credit is due. I am going to segue us into talking about Year of the Horse, and I think that the beatboxing is a welcome addition
it's just
to
powerful.
this episode.
Yeah, it's just powerful. Like, come on.
Like horses. And I think, first of all, did you look into, do you know what year we are in now? What are we coming to the close of, animal-wise?
The snake, I believe.
Okay, I don't know.
I'm not sure about. No, the rabbit. Wasn't it the rabbit?
Okay, I was wondering, but were we born Year of the Rabbit?
Yes,
These are
right?
questions that
No,
I don't know why I'm putting you on the spot for answering.
Yeah, first of all, what the hell is happening?
It was the Earth Rabbit.
The Earth Rabbit?
Let me resume my seat. Yes, the Year of the Earth Rabbit, which you are something of an Earth Rabbit.
Year of the Earth Rabbit doesn't have quite the same spice and umph to it as Year of the Fire Horse, but I will take it. I can be a soft girl as well.
For Year of the Fire Horse, when I heard that, I was just like, boom, connected. I feel that energy for this year. I'm ready for that. And as, you know, redheads, we have been accused of being something of a fiery nature ourselves, and I will take that because nothing lights up the room like a fire, am I right?
Yes. Yeah, and there is prejudice against redheads as brought to the sphere earlier. Well, I guess I was gonna say this year, but you know, a few months ago with the whole ginger fascination on social media. I felt that I read a prejudice comment about redheads while doing my research for Year of the Fire Horse today under a YouTube video, because I watched this video explaining the Year of the Fire Horse as a very dangerous year where Japanese people felt afraid to give birth this year because there are a couple of women in history that were born the Year of the Fire Horse that turned around and basically did major damage, like kill their husband, etc. And someone commented and was like, yeah, my last ex was born Year of the Horse and also a redhead. Can't believe I'm still alive. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I read that in my fire horse research too, that these years tend to have like a lower birth rate in Japan out of an abundance of caution. And that is just such a powerful energy that I don't choose to resonate with it being violent energy in terms of physically violent, but I think that there is like turbulence that can come with periods of change, and that can be intimidating to step into and to feel like maybe this isn't going to be a smooth season for me. But Quinn and I have already spoken about just kind of this year, not necessarily only a year though, like period in our lives. We are already knowing that there's like a lot of change underway and change on the horizon, and I think that you can just prepare yourself to step into that period of time and know my whole life isn't going to be a series of smooth sailing months where there's no obstacles in my path. And even though that sounds nice, it's nice to just kick back and enjoy the ride. Quinn and I aren't those type of women anyway. Like, I want to keep pushing and pursuing change in my life and embrace the fact that that can have a level of difficulty, but also I think much higher level of reward ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what I'm going to mostly refer to from my notes, awesome YouTube video by someone named Jack Wong, who aka the Destiny Architect on YouTube. And I just recommend you go watch this video on their page because I was taking notes for the episode and I was like, it's one of the moments where I'm like, I want to just press pause, write down what you said, press pause, write down what you said. Just so many little moments of wisdom. But so starting at the top of the video, they alluded to like fire without direction spreads instead of shining, and that resonated with me, that it's like you've got to harness, and before expanding, focus on consolidating and get focused and get good with what you already have before expanding. And I think a fiery year and moment like this, and I know when I get excited and I have the like passion building and fire burning, sometimes it makes you want to just like reach all over and just like spread, like you said, spreading the fire instead of just like harnessing it to grow up. And you can, like, some of the threats that he mentioned that comes with, even though there are like very strong, powerful benefits and opportunities with a year like this, there are also big threats, like overcommitment and loss of balance and making ego-driven choices. So that you have to be right now very intentionally reining in a bit of the energy and resting, and like resting as powerfully as you're pursuing your passions, because it will inevitably lead to burnout if you just go like full steam ahead with the fire energy.
That makes sense. Continuing with the fire metaphor, you keep feeding fuel on the fire and it burns really big and really bright, then you have to keep feeding it for it to stay in that state. Otherwise, it comes down to the smolder. But that's kind of when you're around the campfire, you want to let those coals do their thing, hang out, keep the pot warm, and then when it's the right moment, you go in, add that oxygen, add your fuel, get that stoke up. It's going to be some good energy, but it's also going to be powerful energy that could come along with its exhaustion. And I think it's a good advice that he said to prioritize rest alongside.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I know you can choose to assign meaning to anything. I am letting myself, because I'm not afraid of resonating with something, even if I think that sometimes people, like skeptics, and I think being skeptical is very healthy and smart in a lot of ways, but there are some stuff with this where I can definitely leave what doesn't serve me and take what does, and so much of this I already connected with because we have already had the build up toward a fiery year, and I'm proud of us. I'm saying us for multiple reasons, including that Riley is my team member on my Tattoo by Quinn family. She and I co-run the show of my tattoo business, and I feel like we just anticipated, because things are burning bright. Like we are on an awesome trajectory. We're super grateful and feel blessed with the amount of people I'm seeing, and like business is running well. But I feel like we were just being tuned in and realize like, okay, this fire is growing and the fire is burning and I am in like, attack mode in terms of really getting after it. But we closed my books because they were like 6 months out, and we said, we know that we need to rein it in a little bit and make sure that we can just, like keep the fire burning, stoke it, but not like pour gas on the fire. And I'm so proud of us already, just with how my first, month and a half of the new year has been, because us making that decision, I feel like we did the powerful harnessing of the intensity and the like having a moment for rest and cooling. Because oh my gosh, I think a lot of people, when they're passionate in life, can end up going, like burning bright but then burning out. And it's so much more inspiring to me to burn bright but keep it within arm's reach, because oh my gosh, sometimes like passion, it can get away from you and you can lose yourself. And I also really resonated with him bringing up the point of like that can make ego driven choices more likely to happen. And when excitement and intensity is high, I do feel like it's easy to lose, get lost in the sauce, as if you will, and lose sight of the values that really anchor you and ground you, and just kind of throw it to the wind to keep going. So
and
the balance is so needed.
It is, and I always have appreciated about when I've learned through Eastern religions and philosophies. Of course, that's such a broad group, but a common thread that is often in that thinking is it's really seeks to understand ego. And I was gonna say like reject, but I don't even know that that's necessarily true. It depends on different thinkers, and philosophies I'm sure would approach it differently, but it's being able to like recognize it and then focus more on the whole and looking at things from a community perspective. And the community isn't just like the thought of the community of people around you, but a more holistic point of view that looks to the whole earth and how am I a part of this system. And I think that's something that I'm also just practicing more and more to consider when I'm making choices. Again, we were raised in a culture that was really like, and continues to, I think a lot of what we hear for about self-improvement and personal growth is self and what is best going to serve you. And of course, in a sense, I think you do have to make those decisions coming from what feels best for me, because that's really what you can know and understand. It's so much more accessible to know yourself and your own needs than to think about things on such a universal scale. But I think that to know yourself is to know the universe, and that you're trying to, that's like the ultimate goal, is how can I look inward to expand outward.
Yeah, I feel like when I get curious about something or excited about something, that I can be very fiery in the like full steam ahead. And I like this advice of just one of the things he said was Jack, who again, I will be watching more of your videos, the Destiny Architect. Just be looking for me in the comments. He said choose impact over intensity. And I can very much so, when I have a thirst for knowledge, just be reaching for like resource, thing, like idea. And this was a good reminder for me to be able to like reach for the stars, but like just take a little moment of pause and hesitancy and like staying grounded in that, because I do want longevity and I want sustainable energy and I want to continue to be curious and passionate, and I really care to reflect and grow as I age, and I need to be real looking at myself and my life to know that okay, there's been a bit of a pattern where it's not even that I don't have a burnout where it's just like months of feeling like I can't do this, but I will have a very extreme, intense burnout of, sometimes a couple weeks where it's just like, whoa, I am almost going through the world in a bit of a disassociative state because I can jump into something so intensely. And Jack gave the advice to build daily habits that anchor your fire. And once again, I'm just telling you, I resonated very much with this video because that for me is so helpful and important. Like having my daily rituals, routine, schedule, just the things I know I have that I can reach for normalcy, routine, like to depend on, instead of feeling like it's kind of constantly scattered. And like that type of fire energy and powerful energy can run wild without being tamed, and I'm just excited about this advice because it's I love the feeling of duality and the feeling of balance, but it's so important to have the reminder that both are equally necessary. And sometimes I will get in the space where it's like, no, I can mostly be full steam ahead and then I'll do like a drop of rest.
Mm-hmm.
That is not the most effective way to go. And I really do. I don't want to be an old dog that you can't teach new tricks to. I want to keep learning tricks and keep polishing up on my skills, and don't want to burn bright to burn out.
Mm-hmm. I was also thinking about how I just, again, am appreciating the imagery, the metaphor of a fire, and it could be like destructive for new growth to happen. If you think about, a forest fire, that's a natural cycle that happens that can feel very devastating, but is a necessary part of rebirth and growth and part of the cycle. And that's something that I have talked to Quinn about with a couple personal things that I have and we have going on, that I am like, I know intellectually that this is like just inevitable in life, that I'm going to have these things that feel a little bit like they're falling apart, and honestly like small devastations, and knowing that that's a part of life, but still having that feeling of it, the emotions that come along with that, of thinking, gosh, this is more difficult than I would choose to feel about this, and no matter how much I can think, like, I know that, this door closing or this situation changing will leave more room in my life for something else to flourish. That doesn't mean that it's not gonna feel difficult and feel like an upset, but that, that's the way of things with natural disasters, with what we see go on in nature. I always turn to natural cycles to remind myself that I'm part of nature and I'm part of this whole system that is constantly breaking, rebuilding. It's always in that ebb and flow. And I like knowing that energy is not just a human burden to carry, but part of the workings of our universe, and that we're just a blip on the radar, really. But I wanted to also say about, because we're talking about that fire energy, with the horse energy, I think is just exciting and special for us because we feel so connected to horses, period. But also because one reason that we feel so connected to them is because there has been such a long legacy of human equine relationship, whether it's domesticated equine or wild or feral equine, that is still a practice, like we heard about with Haley Fitzgerald on our episode that covered her Mongol Derby experience, that I am really excited to take this opportunity to dive into a little bit more learning about that history.
Yeah, I think that what horses, another thing they do a great job exemplifying is balance, because they can really put on the power and like have a very powerful front, and also are very soft and calm and like can be, yeah, you know, people call them gentle giants. I think that they
tell that to Quinn's finger.
Yeah, tell that to my friggin' band-aided finger that's going aching. But speaking of Haley Fitzgerald, she put up a post about the year of the fire horse.
Well, let me just say, shout out to my co-host Quinn, because I feel like you keep on pulling me back, putting me on the right track today. I'm having a lot of thoughts, but not feeling my most concise self, which can be frustrating when we're recording the podcast and I want to bring it to you every week.
Yeah, I know how you feel very much, because I feel that way too. I think that we need to give ourselves a little bit of grace and credit like we would give to anyone else who is trying at something, and you do not. I'm happy to be here to ground and anchor you like you do for me, but you're not giving off that you need that. But it's okay to feel like you need support, and I think that that's something Riley and I feel very privileged to have each other in life in the way we do. If you couldn't tell, listeners, we love having each other and having, we just feel like there's another body, another being in this world, another soul in this world that stands truly beside and with us. Maybe that's why we have this is a whole nother page to go down right now, but Riley, you and I, we're like each other's,
I'll cry.
We're each other's grounding godly
Earth
presence
rabbits?
And you know, that might really turn some people off to say something like that. But truly, how deeply I feel for you in my heart and how deeply I believe in you is like we just get to feel very emotionally and spiritually invested in each other, and it's very touching, and I think we're able to, I think our animals, especially our equine, give us that sense as well, that just the feeling deeply touched and affected by another being is so special.
Yeah, I obviously think that there's an aspect of our being twins that plays into that, but I know so many people that are twins that don't feel that same connection that you and I have, and I think that we deserve to give each other credit that it truly is a choice, and if we didn't choose to be that invested with one another, it's not like biology would force us to be. We might feel still like a sense of connection to one another, but I really think that other people can make that choice to just be unconditional love for someone, and regardless of whatever goes down with each other, no, like, you can trust that I'm not going to give up on you, and I'm not going to judge you, and we will show up for each other and be each other's biggest heroes and advocates. And it's just so nice and lucky to have someone in life that you feel like, I know they'll root for me, and I just hope that even if it doesn't look exactly like Quinn and my obsession with one another, that you can try to forge a connection with someone that feels like, I know that regardless of what goes down, this person is going to try to build me up and encourage me, and etc. That's a really lucky thing to have.
It is, and you know what it is, something that it takes, and Riley and I have talked about this principle because of horsemanship, and my mentor, Ty Evans, who is the mulemanship guy I claim him as my mentor. He may or may not know that I feel that way, but he is definitely
a mentor.
Like a life and horsemanship, mulemanship, donkmanship mentor for me, and something I really value about him is the way he cares to keep growing and look in the mirror, reflect, and take extreme ownership. And extreme ownership is not his. He did not come up with this principle. This one is by a U.S. Navy SEAL, Jocko Willink. And he has...
This is where I work on my open-mindedness, where I'm like, I might resonate with some of that philosophy, and I might not. And take what I can from it and leave the rest.
Yeah, we're allowed to, once again, strike the balance of, like, I am not going to be the level of David Goggins where it's just like, no one cares about you. Like, I just can't. That's not where I'm going to thrive. I need the balance of softness and strength, but I haven't read the book. It's Extreme Ownership is the book. But anyway, the principle is to truly take every circumstance that happens and look at where the part you played and say, yeah, that was me. I have healed so much of my journey with my horses through this principle of extreme ownership. I hear how so many people, and don't get me wrong, there are so many amazing horse people and equine people that, like, so many that are truly doing it right. But I think that a lot of people get so stuck in this blame game with horses, and they have a very hard time putting their ego aside, and it's just like this frustration builds and this angst. And when you feel like a loss of power or a mistake was made or something frustrating happens, like today when my finger got caught in the fence and got cut open by Jimbo, I wasn't like, no, Jimbo, that was you. I'm like, oh, I have a lot to work on how to safely communicate with Jimbo about this and make sure that I don't put myself in that position again. He was just being a mule. He was just being a mule trying to get out on the grass and eat. What does he care about blowing through me? It's only me in that relationship who cares that he just acted that way. It's not like he acted immorally. So I think just taking ownership, and that's something you and I do very much, Riley, in our relationship together, is we have our moments where we will point fingers, but then we can both be seriously humble enough to say, okay, we're going to take a little time, cool these feelings down, take ownership of our parts. And I think that's how our relationship thrives to the extreme that it does. During the 2016 trend on Instagram, show what you were up to in 2016, and looking back, like I said about my Instagram, where I was like, okay, I feel good about the meaningful content I was putting in my captions and like the thoughtfulness, and I really feel like I was trying to put myself and my opinions out there in a way that would resonate. And that's something that Haley Fitzgerald, who we had on the podcast a few months ago, if you haven't listened to that episode, you've got to go back and listen. I think it's called The Longest Horse Race in the World. Go check out our episode with her. She is inspiring and awesome, but it was such a good episode. She does a really good job with her Instagram and putting time and thought into what she wants to say. And I'm seeing now on her business page, Spruced Plume. I just want to quickly read her caption because I thought that it was a nice, thoughtful caption. As we move into February, we are officially shedding the snake and stepping into the year of the fire horse. This feels like an especially important year for women. The fire horse is bold, driven, independent, and unafraid to move forward with conviction. It's a year that rewards courage, action, and those willing to bet on themselves. For women, especially women in small businesses, artists, and makers, this year carries real momentum. Fire horse energy favors the doers, the builders, the ones who have spent years honing their craft quietly and are now ready to take up space, set clear goals, and move decisively toward them. This isn't a year of shrinking or waiting to be chosen. It's a year for choosing yourself. The fire horse doesn't ask for permission. It values freedom, vision, and forward motion. It encourages women to trust their instincts, to lead with integrity, and to create lives and businesses that are aligned with their values, not just profitable, but meaningful. For goal-oriented women, this is a year of clarity and execution. Ideas turn into action, dreams turn into plans, plans turn into something tangible. And I thought that was nicely put. My last remarks will be a couple of things from the video were just I'm just going to read it as bullet points. Protect peace over proving points. Yes, I could work on that.
Love.
Balance with cooling routines like water therapy and meditation. Yes, please. Model calmness when tension rises. Let humor replace correction. Another thing, like we were inspired by Amanda Montell. Reactions teach you about yourself. Your reactions teach you about yourself. And then
definitely find that to be true. And definitely have, and especially I feel like this past year of my life, noticed more about how it will literally have nothing to do with Brayden and I react. And I think since we've been in a relationship for a long time, some of those patterns for a while had just felt like, oh, that's just kind of like a relationship dynamic, that then I realized that's really more of a you dynamic that I need to take that responsibility for and working towards changing. And just recognizing it, I feel like so often is the impetus for change. And some patterns are hard to break, but sometimes it's just hard to see. And once you see it, it's like the mirror is held up and I realize, oh, that's not what I want reflected back towards me or to put onto anyone else. And yeah, I want to go watch his video.
Thanks for hearing all about these different ideas. I think, Rye, you are giving me this credit for having the episode held together, and I feel a little piece by piece too. But I think that big ideas and big feelings can take time to hone in and round out, and it's okay to get started. Like, if we know anything about business or life, is action speaks. And that doesn't mean just act without thought, but we have to act, and that's what you and I are doing our best to do. Okay. Zion, Olympics. Zion, 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 zion.
Well, first of all, I just love watching the Olympics. Winter, summer, it doesn't matter. I am not like surprise, I'm not a big sports girl, guys. I don't know if you've gleaned that from the podcast yet, but I'm not usually tuning into sports games. It's, if it is thrust upon me, sure. But for the Olympics, it's just such a different story. I don't know, there's so many aspects about it being like a global thing. I always love that, and seeing sports that you've never seen. I feel like maybe part of it is the Olympics, the commentators understand that a lot of people are coming to watch that don't normally watch the sport. Like, if you watch a football game with the NFL, yeah, they're commentating and they're talking about what's happening, but it's kind of under the presumption that you already know what's going on, and I'm sure that makes sense for a lot of viewers, because most people don't need that explained to them. They're showing up for this week after week. They know what's happening in the game. But it's so fun at the Olympics that I feel like for most sports, if you go and tune in, you don't have to already know what's happening. The commentators do a lot of explaining, and they want to make it accessible for people that don't usually view the sport. And who has been particularly fun commentators, which makes sense, but any of the snowboarding, you guys have to watch snowboarding big air, snowboarding half pipe, men's and women's. Their commentators are hilarious because they're just former professional athletes, like maybe current, I don't know, like former Olympians, snowboarders, and they're just goofy, and they're taking the sport seriously, but it's about like trying new stuff and having a good time and trying to put as they say, make it saucy, and listening to the commentate. It's a very joyful thing. Like, it feels, yes, it's like high stakes, it's the Olympics and whatnot, but they're really stoking each other up and just wanting to see people have fun. And also, it's, of course, so crazy and impressive, and seeing how high they get on the air, especially in big air, but even on half pipe, it's exciting to watch. I know that you said you haven't really watched the Olympics yet this year.
Not out of disinterest. I am definitely interested. It's just been going on for like a week, and I want to watch. We also have a friend in the Olympics this year, which is so exciting, and we are definitely going to watch her. Such a badass from our hometown, Anna, and I know someone asked me what sport she was in yesterday, and I know what it is because they like run up the mountain with their skis and then ski down, but I couldn't remember what it's called.
Yeah, it's called ski mountaineering, or skimo for short.
Yeah,
and it's the first year that the Olympics has this event, so it's pretty crazy that not only is Anna in the Olympics, but this is like the first year that they're doing it in the Olympics, and this is not a sport that she has trained for. She went for her first competition to qualify for the Olympics, but she is a multi-sport athlete that grew up skiing and grew up doing Nordic and grew up running. She's the top runner in women's US like uphill running right now, and got top 3 in the world recently for uphill trail running. So she's pretty impressive athlete. But yeah, they skin up, like you're on your skis in skins, skin up, ski down. It's then a partner does it too. I don't know if she's also doing the singles event. I saw that there's singles schemo as well, that maybe she's doing women's and the pairs. I'd have to look into that, but really excited for her. And another of our local hometown girls, Breezy Johnson, won gold for her alpine downhill skiing. So lots
Crazy.
of hometown pride.
Yeah.
You can see how Quinn and I maybe had a skewed version of our own athleticism growing up, because I always felt like, oh yeah, I'm not that athletic, even though we trained like dancing every day, and we did ski and we did hike and backpack and do other sports. But we were growing up with kids that started getting sponsored as professional athletes when they were 12 and are competing on a national and then an international level. And so when your peers on a literally like being in gym class with someone like that, and you're like, this is a little story that maybe I've told on the podcast before, I don't remember, but Quinn and I in 6th grade signed up for the cross country team. We thought that was cross country skiing, and we started training running, and we're like, oh, I guess this is like dry land before the season starts. And then we realized that cross country is just long distance running, and we were like,
we did not mean to. And us to our mom and dad were like, we didn't know what we're signing up for. And they're like, you signed up and you're going to see it through. And I'm so grateful that we have a mom and dad who that's the way they went through life, even though at times it felt like, okay, our mom and dad aren't fun and aren't understanding. But what it really was is that they were teaching us like discipline and commitment and sticking to your word and what you promise yourself.
But
I did come
they
in
were like, you're part
last
of a team. I remember
second
that
to
was
last.
a big thing where they were like, you already made a commitment to your team and you don't have to do it another season if you decide you don't want to, but you have to show up.
You're gonna stick it through.
I'm like, they're making us run more than 1 mile at a time. Back-to-back miles, you guys. Do you understand me? And I remember with our peers doing this, I'm like, so you guys, like, you run multiple miles in your free time? What is this? You do this with your family? How have you ever done this before? I was flabbergasted. I'm like, we're 10. What do you mean you guys have already run 5 miles before?
Duh, right? So many of those families that we would see on the bike path on a Saturday that it's just like, starts at the dad and then it's mom, daughter, son, literally 3-year-old, and they're just keeping up running. I'm like, okay. We like to play hopscotch on the driveway and like skateboard is anyway.
Yeah, I'm pogo sticking with my helmet on in the driveway.
Yeah. I had a little bit of a year of the fire horse moment on my Mustang Ghost this week. Let's just say I felt
at our own Olympics.
I felt that I feel very grateful for my life and my health and my happiness, and also my commitment and my determination, because I tried to prepare Ghost as well as I could, and again, I'm always learning. I learned from this situation, but we did have a little bronc ride, bucking around the pasture and then just taking off at full speed gallop, including multiple turns up to a barbed wire fence. So my initial feeling was, oh my gosh, panic. Do I dismount? And then I was like, who do I think I am? I am buckled in for this ride and I am gonna do this. Lost both my stirrups so quickly, but just stuck in there on the saddle, just gallop
just
across the pasture.
Death gripping that saddle horn or what?
Yeah, well, I at first was just like riding down with my hands by his neck, on the reins, and thankfully I never lost the reins, but eventually I was like, who am I kidding? I'm gonna grip the saddle horn. Like, I am, I have nothing to prove here. I just want to stay on. And so, yes, I did end up gripping that saddle horn with a death grip and just lay. I am glad that my body fits in that saddle as well as it does. Let's just say that, because, whew, I felt a little beat up and bruised, but came back down, and today's a new day for another ride. So hopefully it's a little, we'll embrace the cooling side of the ride today, hopefully.
Yeah, I know that the thing is, for the most badass riders, like, oh, I would never hold on to the horn. I'm like, okay, well, luckily I'm not one of the most badass riders, and there have been times where I'm like, I'm not only grabbing onto the horn, my other hand is grabbing onto the back of the saddle, and I am doing everything I can to just stay in this seat right now, and with more practice and experience. But that just reminded me of a time that I, as a kid, felt like, this is a full-on bucking bronco rodeo. It felt so intense, and my grandpa is like, yeah, they crow-hopped a little bit, and you're like, shut up, it was crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what this was like, too. I told Sean, I'm like, there is no way it was full-blown bucks with legs extended out behind. No, it was definitely crow hops with a little bit of tossing me around in the saddle. But yeah, when you're up there, it can feel like, wowie, what's going on beneath me? But yeah, it was my version of a bronc ride, which is nothing compared to what many go through and experience, especially back in the day when cowboys didn't really believe in groundwork, and when you just started riding them from like without training
like
on the ground.
From Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that it would be sick if in the Winter Olympics they added skijoring, and I don't know if that is just not broad enough in enough countries yet for that to be on the table or not.
I'll definitely tune in and watch some Olympics. It is so fun. It's amazing to watch people be good at things. It's always inspiring to watch people excel and dominate at something. So,
and
hopefully,
the age ranges are so crazy. I think the youngest athlete I've seen so far was 16, and I don't know if this was the oldest.
One of the snowboarders was 15, I think.
Okay, maybe 15. And one of the snowboarders is 44. Which, it's not like
nice.
That's ancient, but still you're like, I mean, hey, 44 keeping up with these young athletes is pretty crazy impressive. We are rooting for Anna. So cool that she's there and nonetheless competing in a sport that is new to her, but I have no doubts that she's going to go out there and put it all out there. And the Year of the Horse actually starts the day that this episode comes out, so we're excited to get to introduce that to you if you haven't heard about it already, or if you have, give a little more info, hopefully some inspiration on some energy you might want to lean into this year. I feel that it sits right excellently with my word verb for the year, so I'm excited about that being in alignment.
Thank you everyone for listening. We hope you can build the fire and stoke the fire and find your places to be brought down to earth, stay grounded, and stay calm.
Speaking of 2016 Instagram captions, Quinn just reminded me that I did recently, when I was looking through my 2016 posts, see that I captioned a picture of just me that said, "I'm not a fire, but I sure am stoked."
Very cool.
Thanks.
I stand by that.
Yeah. Embrace the cringe.
All right. Goodbye.
Goodbye.